Voyage.
My name is Karen Kalinich, and my story is about growing up the oldest of two, only to find out that I was number 12 of 13, all by the same mother.
When we think of parents abandoning their children, we tend to think of men doing so, leaving behind single mothers. That wasn't the case with Karen Kalinich's mother. Ironically, Karen's mother was physically present in her life, but she would later discover her mother did something unheard of, arguably as much back then as it would be now. She repeatedly would meet a man, get pregnant, have a child, and then abandon that child, again and again and again. It wasn't until later in life that Karen would discover a practical army of secret siblings she never knew she had.
Our mother would find a man, meet a man, whatever, do the deed, have a baby, maybe wait a few months, and then do it. And she did that for 21 years. She gave them away. She threw them away. She left them on doorsteps, gave them to friends. Her pattern was so precise. Pennsylvania's sister actually got to meet her father and have a relationship, and he corroborated their story and the story timeline and our mother's behavior. They were living together, 13-month-old and 3-week-old. Our mother and this man had an argument. She said, "I'm leaving." And he said, "Well, take the babies." She goes, "I'm not taking the babies." He said, "Well, you have to." She took them, went to her friends, said, "Can you watch the kids?" and never went back.
Karen's identity in life was heavily connected to her work. It was only after that identity crumbled that she would wind up finding out more about her mother's true identity.
Well, after a 45-year career in the automotive industry, there had been some rough spots with my boss, and on a Friday afternoon, their attorney called me and asked me to go home and wait for severance and settlement with no explanation. So I did. The career shift, well, it destroyed me. I was the CFO, COO of this automotive group, and it really made me question everything about myself. I did some things to excess. I pushed my family away. I was not in a good place. It was very dark. And then I was, online looking for jobs. Then I was online dating. And then I jumped over to Ancestry. I had done some research years ago. My birth father's Italian. Did research years ago on Ancestry. And throughout this, when I had hit enough walls on the Italian side, I flopped over to my maternal side, only to not know these names, not understand who all these people were. I reach out to a cousin, the only living first maternal cousin I have, who then tells me, "Oh, your mom had 13 kids. You didn't know?"
This might be the craziest part of the story. Karen's mother's behavior wasn't exactly cloaked in secrecy. It was known. You'll hear more about this later in the episode. But it was a secret to Karen. Nonetheless, she had sensed intuitively that something was wrong. She just couldn't name what it was.
And I always felt like I was searching because my growing up in childhood was very rough. They actually had the great part because they got given to, left with, or transferred to good families, raised well, and their lives all, knock on wood, were really, really good. When I was about 11 or 12, I remember asking my mother why she never said she loved me. And she said, "When you can prove that to me, I'll tell you." I have worked every year of my life since then, trying to prove to her, to me, to someone that I was worthy. And that, as you say, carried through my entire career in a field where it was a male-dominated industry, always trying to prove and figure out where I fit in. In growing up, I'm in my teens and she's sitting in a chair crying, and I'm like, Mom, what are you crying about? She goes, it's my daughter's birthday. And I said, Kathy and I are born in January. She goes, I have 3 other daughters, and you just don't know I had to give them away. Well, growing up, I learned that if my mother's lips were moving, she was lying. So I didn't think anything about it. Fast forward many, many years. She's dying. She's on the bed. She's unconscious. And the nurse says, you need to say your goodbyes and then go home. I'll call you. So I sit on the bed and I try to do my best. And I said, I know you must have had a really hard life. I know at one point you said you had 3 daughters and possibly even a son named Alan. And when I said that, she had been lying in bed like this, and she went and passed back out. While that looked funny, that's exactly what happened. It was terrifying because they say when people are in a coma, they can still hear you. And that was her acknowledgement on her deathbed that there really were 3 girls and a son named Alan. But again, I didn't even think anything about it till 20 years later. I mean, it just wasn't on my radar. It was just part of the screwed up story of who my mother was. She had so much bottled up and stored inside her. I mean, I can't even imagine having 12 children, what her thoughts would have been on a daily basis. And maybe just that was a day that it cut loose on her. As a human being, I don't know how anybody could keep all that bottled up and protected forever.
That sense of something missing Karen felt growing up, she would discover applied to her unknown siblings as well.
They were all looking for a connection as well. For them, it served the same purpose, but our paths to get there were totally different. Then I start to make contact with those people through Ancestry. And one leads to another, some more people sign up. And then I do a lot of really deep research into people we're connected with that are not responding, and that leads to more people. But in the meantime, we're pulling together all of these siblings, and I bring us to a family reunion.
Bizarrely, it was these siblings Karen had never met before who pulled her out of the downswing she was in after losing her job.
And I have spent my life being in charge. I wasn't in charge of myself or my life through this whole period. It could be a great thing, but it also caused to push away people. I was still in a very bad time until we got to that reunion, and some of my siblings just kind of snapped me out of it.
At the same time, these literally were strangers.
You're put together with someone who you're related to by blood, and you're supposed to all of a sudden sing Kumbaya and everything's great, when in fact you're strangers. And as people, we live totally different lives. They're all older than me. I was number 12 of 13, and our mother had me when she was 40, and all my sisters are much older than me. That starts the what do we have in common, which wasn't a lot. Fortunately, all my older sisters have had great families, all been married for a very long time. I'm the only person, and our younger sister, but she and our mother didn't have any contact after she was about 20-something years old. I was with our mother my entire life in one form or the other, caring for her, financing her, whatever. I was always around her. So to see my older sisters and how much of her is in them and how many attributes and traits we all share, I think there's something, I don't know if the term is genetically inherent or what, but there's that connection that is there. Whether we grew up together or not, it was very, very apparent. It still is.
Why was Karen, uniquely, the one who got to stay with her biological mother?
she never married any of them. The first man she married was my stepfather. Back in my 7, 8, 6, 7, somewhere in there, my stepfather was the poster child for dysfunction and abuse and all the things that go with that. Physical, mental, sexual, you name it. And I went to my mother. And this was very telling. Now it makes more sense than it did then. I told her what he was doing to me. And she said, well, what do you want me to do about it? Look at me. Who's going to want me now? I don't have anything to do with him anymore. And then she just stopped talking and ignored me. I couldn't figure out. I was very lost, very searching. She didn't love me. He did this. Nobody cared. I grew up feeling very empty, always thinking, this isn't how this is supposed to be. There's got to be something different. I think that our mother wound up with this man because she was 40, 41, and she knew she was running out of options. Any woman who for 21 years just continues to do what she did, meeting someone, having a baby, sometimes she had 2 with the same man, but then just poof, give them away, throw them away, which is, what my sister coined the term. It's very hard to have emotion for someone and then learn how to have emotion in your life when there was none in your life when you were growing up. There was no love, there was no care, there was no communal, there was no family.
Now, Karen has a large family.
Our oldest sister, Nancy, lives in Anchorage, Alaska. She just turned 87. The reunion was a couple years ago. We have Texas, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Alaska, and Georgia. So the easiest way I suggested for all of us to meet was for all of us to go to Alaska, since Nancy was the oldest. And so we coordinated our flights. 2 met in Texas, and they flew together. They had never met each other before. I flew with a sister from Tennessee who came here, and we had never met before. And when we all got to Alaska, none of us had met Nancy. So it was really kind of interesting to put these 5 women in an Airbnb, and we had never as much as laid eyes on each other. We'd had a phone call or 2, but none of us are the same, I can tell you that. And it was interesting to see how we kind of aligned with each other. My Tennessee sister and I are very, very close, and the Pennsylvania sister is very close with the Alaska sister. And while we all talk and do well with each other, it's been interesting to see how we aligned on a little bit closer level.
What would it be like to meet your sister when one of you had been raised by your biological mother and the other had been abandoned by her? Karen found out exactly that.
Hi. It was so bizarre to see her face. She didn't know my mother at all. If she knew the resemblance she had to her, the little mannerisms, the small details of her face, I wasn't sure she'd want to know that. Hi.
This is the top 5 strangest things that's ever happened in my life.
I would think it's top 5 strangest things that's happened in anyone's life.
I bought a new coffee machine just for this weekend. We're gonna need it.
As she spoke, I kept trying to imagine what her life had been like. It was what I had to assume a normal life was before she found out.
I was 30 when I found my dad.
What did he tell you about her?
They had my brother in 1948 and me a little over a year later. I was born in March.
A lot of the times with her, it was just one child and gone. You were rare that way.
For the time, what she did, it was all rare. She was like a trailblazer. Women can do something this terrible to their kids, too.
How long did she stay after you were born?
So I said I was born in March, right? Well, in late March, they had some kind of blow up. Who knows what about? And she said she was leaving. My father told her, "You have to take the babies." She said no. I guess he worked on her until she agreed, and she took me and my brother, and she left.
This seemed to be the pattern. Some argument, she would just disappear.
It's like if you took any fight you ever had with your husband and left each time and started a new family. If that was her way, it's a surprise there weren't more of us.
Of course, you couldn't remember any of this.
Yes, this was all news to me. Maybe it's for the best. I was too young to remember. She went to her friend's house and asked her to watch us. The same way you or I would for a neighbor if we had to run to the store, and she just never came back.
What did the friend do?
Told my father, but he didn't come for us until a year later. Not for us, for him, my brother. Maybe at the time back then, it was considered more defensible to abandon a girl instead of a boy. I don't know. But he left me with the woman who raised me. My mom. My actual mom. She raised me since I was 3 weeks old. Never told me. It wasn't until our biological mother died that my older sister told me not only that our mother wasn't our mother, but that she wasn't my sister. It took me another 15 years to find out all this.
My God, I'm so sorry, Darla.
I always wondered what she was doing out there. Why wasn't I important enough to her to stick around? I guess I wasn't the only one, it turns out.
The woman who raised you, she took care of you?
Like I was her own, always. Of course, now you can't help but wonder.
You didn't miss anything. Your life was my dream. Our biological mother, yes, she was around. She was there physically, but mentally, she was as far away from me as she was from you. I was a burden. I was an annoyance she had to get through. She was about as physically connected with me as a lost kid on the bus. Maybe less, actually. You might hug that lost child for reassurance. There has to be something science could explain about how two people could spend so much time together and not have any kind of real bond.
And you've communicated with how many others?
There's 4 I've been able to contact through ancestry sites. None of them knew about it. Didn't know her name, no adoption papers. I have to admit, I wondered if it was right to tell them.
You considered not?
Knowing what you know now, would you rather not have found out? Just stayed thinking your mother was your mother and that was that?
No, I'm glad I know. I mean, I say that now. At the time I found out, wouldn't have been the same answer. I was wrecked by it. I didn't want to go anywhere, do anything. I was ready to hide in a bathrobe for the next 40 years. But after a while, I understood. It's the truth. Better the truth, even an ugly truth.
Maybe some of us sensed something was missing. You know? Something we couldn't really explain.
Tough to say. Is that hindsight? Does it all make sense now? Or do we think we knew something was wrong, and really we didn't?
My therapist has made a lot of money trying to answer those questions.
13?
Total, yes.
It's like a nightmare. Like I'll snap out of it and find I was snoring on the couch.
At first I thought surely people knew, people talked. There's no way this wasn't talked about. The answer was pretty simple. It was.
At least we have each other now. The world's most dysfunctional family tree. She really was something, huh?
She really was. I stared at the face of my sister, my blood relative. And though we'd never met, never knew each other, were in all reality total strangers, I felt at home.
We all have had a very hard time getting past how a woman could have all these children and just give them away with absolutely no remorse, no care, no concern. the Pennsylvania sister and a brother who is now passed, our mother literally went to her best friend's house and said, "Hey, Marie, can you watch the kids for me?" And she never went back. I had to go back to my grandmother, who I had never met. She died young. And back to my great-grandmother through ancestry to see what I could glean from that. And I don't think my grandmother was much better. There's a stint where my grandmother put half her children in a children's home in Trenton, New Jersey. She kept my mother and the other oldest daughter, and the younger children she put there, and then she died and the father went back and got them. So, is it learned behavior? I don't know. I think being a parent, knowing that feeling, that love, that this is of my flesh and blood, and then associating it back with the woman that I grew up with, I don't know how one human being could be that empty and that cold. She was always there. She and my stepfather were alcoholics, so she had a car accident when I graduated high school. She was there physically, but she wasn't mentally ill, but it was almost like raising yourself. She didn't participate in anything. If I wanted to participate in anything in school, which I did, find a ride, find the money, figure it out. She just didn't care. There was nothing.
That thing that was missing? It's there now.
Yesterday, my sister from Tennessee called and said, "I was just looking at the Weather Channel. Looks like you've got some bad storms coming your way. You going to be okay?" All my life, I never had anyone that would ever do that. As simple as that phone call was, the joy that there's someone out there in Tennessee that's worried about a storm heading my way. And I'm the most self-sufficient, independent person. To me, I would never think that a storm coming would be a problem. But they've helped me see that I don't have to be that independent and emotionally self-sufficient anymore. I think that the whole discovery, finding all the sisters, the siblings, and finding out about our mother has been accepted by everybody, and everybody's had a good life. I think probably, I don't want to say mine was the worst. My younger sister took some horrible paths, but, they've all done well, and all of us finding out about each other has been, none of them grew up with sisters. They all grew up as only children. So for them to all of a sudden have a family and have sisters, everybody's just been thrilled. We only have 4 left to go. So I just keep doing the research. So does it have an ending? I don't know. I think time is of the essence for me because of the age of my siblings. I mean, I'm no spring chicken, but, I'd love to be able. We celebrated and did a Zoom call when we got the sister in New Jersey just 2 months ago. That was very exciting. This woman sends all the sisters a text every morning and every night because she's almost housebound. She's just so thrilled. So thrilled.
Hope Lives Here is a production of Voyage Media. The series is produced by Nat Mundell and Dan Benamor. This episode, Throwaway Kids, is executive produced by Karen Kulinich. Story produced by Alyssa Goodman. Starring Stephanie Idelson as Karen and Livia Trevino as Darla. Edited, sound designed, and mixed by James Scully. Original music by Jarlis Gonzalez. If you're enjoying the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you're listening, and subscribe now for future episodes.